Hey you guys, I know it's been a while since I've done a video. I'm very sorry. Things have been super busy. I promise to try and do some this week and try to have a more regular schedule. It really all just depends on everything else. So I appreciate you guys for understanding that and everything. I know last year I did the D23 announcements, did some thoughts on those, or at least in the past I have. I cannot remember if last year I did because depending on what the announcements were, there were some good ones and then, whatever. But this year, it sounds like they have like a solid idea. And I have some thoughts on it. I'm gonna share them. We'll go through them. As well as just, especially when it comes to Walt Disney World, I know there is a lot of competition because Universal, I think Universal in general is just really, not saying they're stepping up their game, but you have, particularly in that area, Epic Universe is going to be opening soon, and especially with announcements that we've had there. Yeah, they're gonna have some competition, and I really feel that unless like we start getting the ball rolling, uh, Disney might be hurting. So let's go through some of these announcements. Let's talk it through, and I'll share my thoughts on it. So let's go. So the first announcement that I think is not the most important, but one of the most important, is it is finally announced Magic Kingdom is doing a Villains Land. And I discussed this the first time that was kind of like hinted at what they would be doing in regards to an expansion at Magic Kingdom, where either A, it was going to be like a Coco and Kanto situation, or if it was going to be a Villains Land, like if they were going to try and do both. And here's the thing, like I still feel this, not saying it's their biggest, like, yes, come, but it's new. It's going to be an expansion for the area. And especially it's something that a lot of people enjoy. A lot of people enjoy the villains, especially if you're going to have more things that people want in regards to the villains. This is what they're going to want. And I'll make sure too to put this article in the description as well. And the thing is Disney just in general, they have not had an expansion or like an expansion of this size since New Fantasyland. Heck, you could even say Storybook Circus. There has not been anything that's like, ooh, new and exciting that I think a lot of people would be looking forward to. And this is one that I think can at least help a little bit in regards to the Epic Universe situation. Now, mind you, this is gonna take a while. Like, this is not something that I feel like, oh, yep, we're just gonna pop it out next year. This is gonna take years. But who knows? Maybe by luck, it could come out a little bit quicker. We don't know. Another thing coming to the Magic Kingdom is they are going to be doing essentially a Cars land, or like you could almost think like expansion kind of. So essentially, from the sounds of it, it's going to be a part of Frontierland. Now, from what I have heard, that this particular concept is going to take over Tom Sawyer's Island and the Riverboats of America. And I am like here's my one thought on that, okay? Because if you've been to the Magic Kingdom, if you haven't, I'll paint you a picture. So like you have the queue for the Haunted Mansion, okay? And I think what works with that queue is, with the whole theme of Haunted Mansion and like what you see, yeah, you're just gonna see forest, you're gonna see a riverboat. Like it's more, I don't want to say secluded, but like you get that feel of, yes, I'm immersed and it works. I do think they need that, like, yes, of course, you need something new, you need something fresh, but I'm just curious what they plan to do. Like, so if this is going in that area, it's no longer going to be like, ooh, like, yes, a haunted mansion, and now I see cars. Like, I'm sure they're gonna somehow separate it. Or like maybe you'll see some, like maybe there'll just be trees that like separate. I have no idea. I'm hoping that's what they do, because otherwise to me this just is like, it's not gonna work. Because I'm gonna sit there in the queue, like standby queue for Haunted Mansion. I'm gonna go, oh, this is so nice, and then I'm just gonna hear cars whipping by. You know, like it's not gonna be the same as what the feeling is currently, where it's just like, you know, seclusion, I'm in a mansion, I see the scenery, it works. So that's my only thing with this, is I just don't know how it's all gonna mesh together. Sure, like they will figure something out, they'll do it. I know I would think I'm not the only one with this concern, but you never know. The other two announcements to come for the Magic Kingdom, I would say that, you know, people have been talking about the most. I know last year it was the Pirates of the Caribbean Tavern that's going to be coming, so it sounds like that's going to open by next year. And then when it comes to, there's going to be like a new nighttime parade, which I think will be really exciting. Because, you know, they do have Happily Ever After, but it's been a while since they've had like, because I know for a time, I believe there was like a nighttime show, like a parade, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a bit. It's been a while. I know Disneyland in particular had like the electrical parade, and that came back, I think it was last year for a time. And so here, you know, it'll just be exciting to have like another option to have as like a show and a viewing. Otherwise, for Epcot, there's going to be a lounge that's going to be opening up as well. And by the sounds of it, it's going to be kind of themed after Spaceship Earth, where it's like, yes, you can thank the Phoenicians. So that'll be exciting. I really like, biased opinion, I really love Epcot. But a lot of people too, I know, have been talking about, now if you look at a map, you can see there is room for another country. Where they would put that, I'd have to look again. There's like one of two spots. So I don't know right now off the top of my head, but there's like two spots that you could potentially do like another country in. And so I am surprised that that hasn't kind of been a topic of discussion. But if they, you know, again, people like me, I love Epcot. Yes, you can change Epcot. I'm still gonna love it. So, you know, if and when they ever do decide to add a country, that I think would be a cool announcement. But I know also too, Epcot just got done with a whole like refurb of the front. So I feel Epcot is like, hey, you've had your changes. Now it's time for like everybody else. So I'm not shocked by that by any means. Now, when it comes to Hollywood Studios, I guess there's kind of two announcements. Because especially here, sounds like they're going to do a Monsters Inc. land. I know some people have like talked about that for a bit, or thought that would be cool and nice. I think it's a cool concept. I'm not too tied to Monsters Inc. Just not saying it's bad. I'm just, that's not like, you know, like I'm more like Pixar wise, I'm more of a Ratatouille girl. I also really do enjoy Turning Red, but, and like some of the other ones, but this one, like, I think because of how long it's been around, and I think the ride is a cool concept. So essentially, this is going to be like a suspension ride, and they had like props and dioramas to show it too. Sounds like this is going to go of one in two places, or at least what people are theorizing. If you're in love with the Muppets, it could potentially go in that area. So essentially, that would be like right outside Galaxy's Edge where you would go in. Otherwise, it sounds like it could go. It sounds like it could go in the area, kind of by Disney Junior, where like the old launch bay used to be for Star Wars. They're not using that too much anymore. They only use it for meet and greets. But I feel like at some point they could move that to actually Galaxy's Edge. And then the other announcement when it comes to Hollywood Studios, it sounds like there's gonna be new missions, or like kind of like Star Tours, where it's not just gonna be the one mission that you have. It sounds like Grogu and the Mandalorian will now be a part, in some cases, of the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, and I believe that's going to be at, I mean, why would it not, at any place that has the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, which is, I believe, just Disneyland and Walt Disney World. And so I think, again, that's something to like, hey, let's keep this innovative, let's keep going, because otherwise, you know, I've ridden that ride a few times, and after a while, you're just like, okay, like, is there a different, like, potentially a different mission I could do? I know some people have talked in regards to the Mandalorian, and like, you're gonna have opinions no matter what it is. Like, oh, this just doesn't make sense. Like, it's a, I think personally, and this is just my opinion. So, like, you had, God, what was the Star Cruiser? That's what it was. You had the Star Cruiser, okay? And a lot of people, like, at least for me, which I never went, but with the Star Cruiser, that is literally like, hey, you are in the sequel trilogy. You don't get to see anything else or do anything different. And I think for a lot of people, you know, they would like the point of Galaxy's Edge in a way to be like, hey, kind of like think Avengers Campus. You kind of can just see anybody that you want, and there's no like timeline associated with that. And I think here that's kind of, I think, the mindset at times that we need to have. It shouldn't just be like, hey, this is just the sequel trilogy. And I get when it opened, like Rey, Chewbacca, like the sequel trilogy people, they were kind of the center focal point. But I think really, you know, it should really just be like an Avenger Campus situation where it's like, hey, even though we continue on with these stories, you shouldn't just have to stick to one timeline. And that's just like, that's my opinion, that's my kind of thoughts on it. I feel like it should just really be open-ended, and not just stuck to one thing, especially if maybe you're not a big fan of the sequel trilogy. Like, I enjoy Star Wars, do not get me wrong, but I will always be a die-hard prequels person. I know the original trilogy for a lot of people, like, that is, and mind you, that is okay. For some people, hey, you were introduced because of the sequel trilogy. That's cool too. But like, I would love to see some prequel things in there. And that's just me. That's my opinion. My thought, you know, for that in particular. I guess I should backtrack a bit. So for Epcot, which this was announced last year, they're going to be doing the retheme for Test Track. So like, that's still underway, and it sounds like that'll open next year. I mean, I don't know, to me that's not like new. We kind of already knew that. Otherwise, like when it comes to the Animal Kingdom, sounds like they do have that same concept that they talked about last year, where it was like, hey, let's transform this into tropical Americas, kind of inspired by Indiana Jones and the Encanto. And so it sounds like here the ride for Indiana Jones is going to be different than other rides across other parks, because there is one in Paris that's more of like a thrill ride, and the one at Disneyland is essentially like Dinosaur. And so here it sounds like it's going to be a little bit different in regards to that ride vehicle. Now for Encanto, if I remember correctly, the Encanto ride or the Encanto area, it's going to have like a family style restaurant of some kind, or at least a quick service. And it sounds like you will be able to go into the house, the Encanto house. So I think once this is done, and again, kind of like the Villains Land, it's probably going to take a bit for all, you know, and even Cars too, I guess you could say as well. It's going to take a bit for that to finally be done. How long? I don't know. There's probably some, like, they probably talked about a timeline, they probably have an estimation, but anymore, that's just an estimation. I feel like sometimes that can be hit or miss, at least from the past, you know, when we've had timelines. So I think that's the biggest news when it comes, oh, that and the Zootopia show. Sounds like that might open in 2025, 2026. I forget the estimation that they had there, but essentially that's going to go within the Tree of Life. And so now we're going to move on to Disneyland in California. So essentially, with Disneyland, they're going to be doing an Avatar land that was previously announced. Sounds like there's concept art, like, hey, this is what we'll have. And I'll be honest, I don't have too many like in-depth thoughts in regards to what I want in an Avatar land. I still have not seen the movies. Because from what I've heard, the synopsis is like other things that I have seen. But I do know it's like highly regarded. A lot of people talk about it, so like I appreciate it for that. It's just I can't give too much insight in regards to how I feel in regards to this particular project. Now, this announcement, however, I have a lot of thoughts on, because I do think when it comes to Avengers Campus, you have so many possibilities, and especially with, I know Paris has an Avengers Campus as well. You can do so many different things with this. So it sounds like, so if you've, again, I'll try and like build a picture. If you've been to California Adventure, you have Avengers Campus, and you have the headquarters. Behind the headquarters, there's essentially like a wall that like they just have like, hey, this is where it ends. So it sounds like they're going to break that wall, and you will be able to see more like things and do more things. So it sounds like they're going to have a few different rides. One of which I believe that was even mentioned the last D23 is where it's going to be like a multiverse situation kind of ride. I in regards to like what type, I think it was supposed to be more of a like a thrill ride, where yeah, you can go on like different journeys and everything, and kind of I almost feel like that's like a Star Tour situation. And then it sounds like when it comes to like if someone has like Robert Downey Jr. is going to come back to voice some things, I think, in regards to the other ride. And I feel like, especially with how it's titled, I think there's like, I think Paris has that ride where essentially like it's, from what I've heard, it's like a rock and roller coaster. And yeah, you get to like fly with Tony and everything. Either way, I think just expanding things within Avengers Campus, and it sounds like they're doing this too at, there's going to be like Avenger type rides in Hong Kong. And I forget, like I know Spider-Man's been featured in like different concepts that that I saw in regards to an Avenger type ride. So I can't remember if the Hong Kong one is specifically Spider-Man, or if it's just like, hey, we're incorporating Spider-Man, or what the situation was there. And then it sounds like, was it Tokyo or was it Paris that would get like another ride? One of the two. But either way, you have so many possibilities, I think, when it comes to the Avengers. And so, especially when it comes to California Adventure, you could definitely have like another thrill ride to kind of get more excitement, just a tad. Then I know like quick stories that I know in regards to this one. They're going to have a Walt Disney animatronic for one of the shows at Disneyland. And then it sounds like Tiana's Bayou Adventure will open in November. I believe it's like November 15th or so. That's what I read anyway. I'm trying to think. And it does sound like in regards to the expansion for Disneyland, because they're going to have, I know, at least Frozen, and I believe maybe Tangled. And so essentially they're going to have, I almost want to call it like, you know how Hong Kong had their Frozen expansion and then Tokyo had their Fantasy Springs expansion? That's kind of what I'm thinking of it. Like, I feel like it's very much going to be that, just now here. And again, the rides could be different. Like, I know in regards to Tokyo and Hong Kong, like, of course the looks are different, but the rides are different. So I think they could come up with either a different ride concept, or it could be copy paste. It's hard to say. And then the other ride that's coming is going to be like a Coco ride. It looks like, at least from the concept art, that it's going to be a boat ride. And I'm wondering if this is going to go on Paradise Pier, since that's kind of like the Pixar area. But I mean, it could go, I don't want to say anywhere, but I don't know if they planned. Oh, yeah, duh, I can't read. It is California Adventure. I could not remember if it was just Disneyland, like in general, that we're talking, or if it was one or the other. So yeah, it does sound like it's gonna be in California Adventure, and I really kind of hope that they do it at Paradise Pier, just because that, to me, would make the most sense, since you have like all your Pixar stuff there. But it's hard to say. It just depends on where space is. And at least from what I know, and that I remember being talked about, was you're going to have a Lion King, like Disneyland Paris is going to have like a Lion King attraction. I also thought I heard kind of thrown around was like a land, or maybe like an area, think like maybe Tangled, Magic Kingdom, but at least it's getting a ride. And I think that's going to be something, because a lot of people love The Lion King. And I'm especially curious because almost with this concept art, it looks like the live action. So I don't know if that's going to be just like Lion King, like the Lion King that we know, or if it might incorporate, or could incorporate, stuff from Mufasa, since it sounds like, with that movie being made and coming out by I think it's the end of this year, that could be something too, where it's like, let's let's incorporate that as well. Why not? Otherwise, I know in regards to cruise lines, there's, I think God, I keep forgetting which one opens at the end of last year. I think it's Treasure opens this year, beginning of next year, and then I think it's Adventure. I just know that fleet just keeps on growing, and then I keep hearing things, and then I get them all mixed up. So that's poor on my part. I apologize, but I just know the cruise lines keep growing. In regards to the concept of the cruise lines, I think the latest one that they announced, even before D23, that was going to be more like, I don't want to say villains, but it was going to have more of like a villains vibe, and I think it's more like heroes and everything. And I also too just could be screwing that up, so please don't look at me too much in regards to the cruise lines. But yeah, it sounds like there's going to be new shows on the cruise line, trying to like incorporate some different things in regards to the dining on the cruise lines. Um, Otherwise, yeah, they had entertainment news. In regards to some of the trailers, that might be some different things that I kind of comment on, especially when it comes to the Mufasa trailer. And if you know, you know, and you watched it, and maybe you have the same thoughts as me. In regards to like Mufasa and Scar, not in regards to looks, just, how things did end up coming to be. But that might be a different conversation in and of itself. But like I said, I'll put this in the description down below. This is more so on like the parks. I'm not sure if it does have the cruise lines in there, but I definitely know like the parks and the experiences and everything. That's what's incorporated within this article. And so, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of announcements made. I think a lot of things confirmed that people were curious about. And so I know, especially for me, the biggest takeaway was the Villains Land. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for a lot of people. um, so I think good things are to come, but like I mentioned earlier, I think when it comes in particular to Walt Disney World, there's definitely going to be a lot of competition in regards to Epic Universe opening up, and just trying to see like, hey, what can we do to not keep, like keep people coming, or like still be competitive. And so that's where I think with some of this stuff, especially if they are hearing a lot of what people want, that could have potentially swayed some things. But I am curious, once like especially Epic Universe opens up, and then once these things do like start coming, like is that going to balance out? We won't know until we see, until those times come. But a lot of interesting announcements. I think a lot of things that people are looking forward to. And yeah, let me know your thoughts down below on what you think, what you're maybe most excited for, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye.